So, Reddit. This is a story that has been boiling up for a long time, and I need to know if I'm in the wrong. I, 32 male, have an older brother, Jake, 34 male, who has always been the apple of my parents' eye. Growing up, it was painfully obvious that Jake could do no wrong. My parents treated him like he was some kind of prince, and I was, well, the backup plan. If Jake didn't want something, it was handed down to me. If Jake needed something, he got it, even if it came at my expense. It was always Jake, Jake, Jake. But Jake has never had his life together. He was that kid in high school who skated by, barely passing classes, while I worked hard to make something of myself. In college, he dropped out after a year because he said it wasn't for him. After that, it was just one failed scheme after another. Business ventures that went nowhere, jobs he quit after a few months because he didn't like taking orders, and relationships that ended when the women realized he wouldn't commit to anything except spending my parents' money. Meanwhile, I've always been the responsible one. I worked my way through college, landed a decent job in tech, and saved enough money to buy my own house by the time I was 28. My career has been stable, and I've been careful with my finances. Despite all of this, I still loved my family. I figured that one day my hard work would pay off, and maybe I'd finally get the respect I deserved. About 3 years ago, I started putting away money for a big gift for my parents. They've never had much, and I knew they were going to struggle once they retired. They had always talked about traveling or maybe getting a small place by the beach, but I knew deep down they'd never afford it on their own. I wanted to give them something special, something that would let them enjoy their retirement without financial worries. I worked overtime, cut back on my own expenses, and after 3 years, I saved up $200,000. It was a huge sacrifice, but I didn't mind because I loved my parents, and I wanted them to be happy. My plan was to surprise them with the money and tell them to use it however they wanted. Travel, relax, enjoy life. The day I handed them the check was one of the proudest moments of my life. They were shocked, tears streaming down their faces, and they thanked me over and over again. My heart felt full knowing I could finally give back after all those years of them struggling to give us a decent life. For a few months, things seemed perfect. My parents talked about taking a long vacation to Europe, maybe buying a small vacation home. Every time I saw them, they were full of plans and excitement about what they'd do now that they had this financial cushion. I thought I'd done something amazing, something that would make them happy for the rest of their lives. Then I found out the truth. About a month ago, I ran into a family friend at a grocery store. During some casual conversation, she mentioned how excited she was that Jake had bought a house. I was confused because Jake's finances were a joke. How could he afford a house? When I asked her more, she said, "Oh, your parents helped him out with the down payment. They're so proud of him." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. I immediately drove to my parents' house and confronted them. My mom acted like it was no big deal, saying, "Jake really needed help, and we thought this would be a good use of the money." My dad just sat there in silence, not meeting my eyes. I demanded to know how much they had given Jake, and my mom casually said, "Oh, most of it. The down payment was $180,000. He really needed it." I was furious. They had taken almost all of the money I had gifted them for their retirement and used it to buy Jake a house. A house for the same brother who had never worked hard a day in his life. The same brother who has coasted by, leaving a trail of financial disaster behind him, knowing that our parents would always be there to pick up the pieces. I couldn't believe it. I felt like I had been slapped in the face. I had given them that money with the specific intention that it was for them to enjoy their golden years, not to throw at Jake to bail him out of his latest failure. When I told them how hurt I was, my mom brushed it off, saying, "But Jake needed it more than we do. You know he's been struggling, and this will help him financially get on his feet." She acted like I was being selfish for even questioning it. My dad finally spoke up and said, "We didn't want to tell you because we knew you wouldn't understand." "You're right, Dad. I don't understand." The worst part? When I confronted Jake about it, he acted like it was no big deal. He said something like, "Well, they're our parents, so what's theirs is mine too, right? Besides, you're doing fine on your own. You didn't need to give them that money anyway." It was like he thought he was entitled to everything because he's the firstborn or something. I was done. I told my parents that I was cutting them off financially. No more help with bills. No more paying for repairs around the house. Nothing. If they wanted to continue enabling Jake, that was their choice, but I wasn't going to be a part of it anymore. I reminded them that I gave them that money because I wanted them to enjoy their lives, and they threw it all away to once again clean up Jake's mess. Since then, my parents have been bombarding me with phone calls, texts, and voicemails. My mom is crying, saying they didn't mean to hurt me, that they just wanted to help Jake because he's their son too. My dad has been more apologetic, but he's still asking me to reconsider, saying it's not too late to forgive. My mom even went so far as to threaten to disown me if I don't come around, saying, if you don't help us, we'll have no choice but to rely on Jake. Good luck with that. Jake, on the other hand, has been gloating. He's acting like he's won some kind of competition, flaunting his new house and making little comments about how he finally got what he deserved. The entitlement is unreal. I feel like I've been used, like all the hard work I did to give my parents something special was just another way for them to help Jake at my expense. I haven't spoken to them in a few weeks now, and part of me feels guilty. I know they're getting older, and I don't want to see them suffer. But at the same time, I can't keep enabling this behavior. I worked hard for that money, and I gave it to them out of love and respect, only for them to completely disregard my intentions and once again prioritize Jake's needs over everything else. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for cutting my parents off financially after they used my retirement gift to buy my spoiled brother a house? OP's parents and Jake sound like the worst kind of enablers and entitled brats. OP gave them that money out of love, and they turned around and used it to bail out OP's brother, once again letting him escape any responsibility for his life. OP is 100% right to cut them off, because it seems like they will never stop prioritizing Jake over OP. If they want to cry about it now, that's on them. And now let's hear the community's opinion on the matter. Not the a-hole at all. I can't even imagine how furious I would be in your shoes. You sacrificed so much to give your parents the gift of financial security, and they took it and handed it over to your brother without even asking. Your mom threatening to disown you is just a manipulative tactic to guilt you into continuing to bail them out. Stay strong, because if you cave in now, they'll just keep enabling your brother and expect you to foot the bill. Not the a-hole. Your brother is not only entitled, but completely clueless about how the real world works. Buying him a house isn't going to magically make him responsible. He'll probably ruin it the same way he's ruined every other opportunity in his life. And your parents? They made their choice. Let them deal with the consequences. You did nothing wrong by cutting them off. It's about time someone stopped enabling your brother. Not the a-hole. Jake didn't deserve that money, and your parents had no right to use it for him without even discussing it with you. The fact that your mom is threatening to disown you is just emotional blackmail. Don't let her manipulate you. You've been nothing but generous, and they threw it all away on the person who never earned anything. You have every right to walk away from this toxic situation. Wife and I have been together for 7 years now, but married for only 2. She's always had a very weird rivalry with her younger sister, who's 12 years younger, which I've mostly ignored until now. She's gotten therapy for it in the past, but it hasn't seemed to help or change much. So, some background. Her younger sister is incredibly smart apparently, valedictorian in her class. She's the president of several student organizations according to my wife. Last year, there was an issue where a kid in her school was claiming discrimination of some kind in an election thing her sister oversaw. It turned into nothing once the school investigated, just plain old teenager drama. But my wife weirdly latched on to that one event. She used it as proof that her younger sister isn't as great as everyone claims her to be. Fast forward to now. Her sister is applying to all of the top Ivy Leagues and all the top universities in the U.S. She has a high chance of getting in, according to her school counselors and my in-laws, since she's won so many national awards in science, math, and she has great grades along with plenty of extracurriculars. I've talked to her myself, and it was heartwarming to see her so excited to graduate. A few days ago, I noticed my wife fidgeting all day, and I asked her what's up. We're just having dinner like normal, but she acts twitchy and nervous, like she's got something on her mind. She kind of hem-haws for a while, and then tells me that this morning she sent out a bunch of anonymous letters to the top universities, basically giving them a play-by-play of the drama that happened last year at her sister's school, with the tone blaming her sister for causing the issue. She implored the schools to watch out for her sister's name when they eventually receive her application. She tells me that she feels like her sister is going to get away without anyone looking into her actions. I'm shocked, since nothing happened in the end. The girl even apologized to her sister in the end for making things up because of petty teenage stuff. I asked my wife if she sent the letters, and she said yeah. Now, I'm not too familiar with the college application process nowadays, but I'm sure what my wife did won't be good. We fight for a bit because I demanded my wife tell her parents and sister, but she cries and accuses me of always being on their side. I tell her I'm not, but she's twisting what was a minor event into a huge thing that could sabotage her own sister's chances at college. I'm honestly horrified, and I still am at my wife's actions. Anyways, that night I did go ahead and message my in-laws myself, because my wife absolutely refused, and to be honest, I was furious at her. I didn't say much, just that my wife had sent out these letters, and I thought they should know in case it does affect anything. Obviously, they call my wife, and she flips out at me, telling me that I betrayed her and that she always knew I'd do this. We're still fighting, but for the first time in years, I really feel like my wife is inexcusably wrong. Instead of wanting to get on her good side, I'm content just ignoring her for the time being, and I feel like I've been naive to this side of her. I don't know what to do. Am I overreacting? Did I make a mistake telling my wife's parents? Part of me feels like I should have kept my mouth shut, but I was so mad that night, I went ahead and did it without telling her. Did I make a mistake? This reminds me of the musician whose girlfriend faked rejection letters from prestigious schools so he would stay with her. He won more than $250,000 in a lawsuit against her. Her parents should contact the sister's high school counselor and let them deal with the institutions. Your wife is seriously deranged, and you know it. You need to think long and hard about what your future with this woman will be. How could you trust her not to try similar tactics when she disagrees with the career choice you've made or decisions about family? She's proven impervious to counseling, but individual counseling might do you some good. You need to also go ahead and suggest that your wife's parents and sister immediately put your wife in an information diet. She's no longer to be trusted with information about her sister, since she can't be trusted not to actively try and sabotage an innocent gifted person's future because of her jealousy. So, Cliff Note version. My father left my family when I was 9 and my brother was 6. Turns out, he had been having an affair on my mother for years. He ended up marrying the lady he had the affair with. They then had a child together, my sister, when I was 15. Although my relationship with my father has been strained at best, I have adored my baby sister and always considered us very close. I have taken her back to school shopping, bought her prom dresses, flown around through every terrible dating disaster and breakup. We have spent hours and years talking, laughing, watching comedies, etc. I have always considered our relationship a good one, and always thought she was the silver lining from the whole affair situation. I would not trade her for anything. I am very proud of her. She started dating a guy, who I like a lot, and they got engaged. I was over the moon excited, and immediately contacted her to see about bridal dress shopping, venues, etc. I know it is terrible, but I assumed I was going to be her matron of honor. She was mine because she is my only sister. I had big plans for her bachelorette party, and was very excited to do all of these tasks together. She let me know via text that not only was I not the matron of honor, I am not in the wedding at all. She is having 6 bridesmaids, and I didn't make the cut. I was very hurt by this, the message, and being texted this information. I decided to just be direct and call her about it. I let her know I respected her decision, and I had no doubt her big day would be beautiful and perfect, and she has every right to choose who she wants. I was just hurt it wasn't me, and it would take me some time to adjust. She told me she still expects me to throw her bachelorette party, and wants me to fly across the country to go wedding dress shopping. She just said she would never have put me in her bridal party, because I am too old. So, in short, she still wants me to throw and pay for things like I was the matron of honor. Just, she does not want me standing beside her on her big day. I told her that she chose someone else as her matron of honor, and I was not going to step on their toes by taking over their job when it was not given to me. She chose someone else over me, and I was going to let them do their thing. I would buy a nice wedding present and look forward to seeing her on her big day, but that if I am not in the bridal party, I am not going to try and act like I am. Am I wrong in my reaction? Really don't want this to be a rift between us. She definitely has a right to pick whoever. I was just surprised. However, I also have self-respect and do not think I have to be passed over but still pay for things and do all of the work for the bridal party without the privilege of being named. I also just feel that I must have failed at our relationship, that she does not consider us close, I guess, and doing lots of reflecting on that. Looking forward to thoughts and advice on moving forward here. Really want to feel okay about this and be classy about the whole situation. This happened to me. My younger sister did a semi-last-minute wedding, 2 months from planning to event. She has no contact with my parents, so I really tried to step in. She assigned me a bunch of things, getting menus printed, finding vendors, ordering and assembling decorations, etc. And I volunteered for things, threw her a wedding shower, gave her money, etc. She had her wedding in the town I live in. She lives several states away, and she asked to stay at my house. I figured she just wasn't having bridesmaids because of the short time frame. Got to the wedding, and there were bridesmaids. I'm almost a decade older, so I thought it was just that. But then my older sister and older sister-in-law were bridesmaids. What I did was put on a smile, had fun, ate good food, went home and cried, and then went low contact. I'm not sure what will work for you, but don't allow someone to use you. It's really painful. You're absolutely correct in your response. Her comment that you're too old is BS, but as you said, she's allowed to pick whomever she pleases to stand up with her. However, yes, you are not her mother, and you are not in the quite large, 6 is big in my opinion, bridal party. Therefore, it's not your responsibility to do any of the work of arranging showers or bachelorette parties, or dress shopping, or anything else that the wedding party does. It's entirely appropriate for you to attend the bridal shower as a close female relative, and somewhat same with attending bachelorette, if the bride decides to invite you. But she can have the one she's chosen do all that work for her, and you can enjoy sitting back and just having fun at the wedding yourself. So me, 26 female, and my husband, 28 male, who I'll call Jake for this story, have been together for 5 years and married for 3. We have recently started trying for a baby, as we both felt that was the next step in our life together. And 3 weeks ago, I got a positive test back. We were really happy and told our families. And now my mom and mother-in-law want to throw a big baby shower for us. It was just super good news all around. Well, 2 nights ago, me and Jake were getting ready for bed when he reminds me to go through the house and make sure all the lights are off. Now, he can be a little lazy at times, and it has become a nightly routine for me to make sure all the lights are off that he leaves on before we go to bed. I wasn't feeling very well and asked if he could just do it since he wasn't doing anything and was literally standing by the door. He then tells me, "No, this is what is expected of you every night." I was a little hurt, but I didn't want to fight with him, so I just did it. When I came back, Jake goes on this very long and unprovoked rant saying things like, "Just because you are pregnant does not mean anything will change, and you are still expected to cook, clean, and do all the chores every day, because how can you be expected to be a mother if you can't handle a little work?" He wasn't yelling or anything. He was talking to me quietly like I was 2 inches tall. I was shocked because I had never heard him say anything like this. The rant went on for about 30 minutes before I interjected and asked, "Well, what do you plan on doing to help me with all of this?" He then got extremely defensive, saying he works his butt off at his job to provide for me and what is going to be our future children. For context, I don't work at the moment. My job was not paying enough to justify me going, so I am a full-time college student. He ended by saying that it doesn't matter how I feel physically or mentally. It is a mother's job to push through, and if he helped and babied me, I wouldn't be a good mother. I got extremely upset and started yelling, and I said that I wish I would have known this is how you felt before I got pregnant with your baby. There was a moment of silence before he started crying, and he left for the night to stay at his mother's house. He hasn't been back yet, and my mother-in-law and sister-in-law have been calling me, berating me, and saying I broke Jake's heart with what I said, and I need to apologize immediately. And until I do, he isn't coming home. I don't know how to feel. So, am I the a-hole for yelling at my husband after he said he isn't helping me with anything during the pregnancy because it's a mother's job to deal with it? Girl, get an A and a divorce ASAP. This man just told you who he really is, and things are about to get a whole lot worse. Run. I'm not comfortable even suggesting that anyone get an A, as that's too personal to take advice from strangers on. But this guy is terrifying. Those were crazy, huge red flags for future aggression. Husband and I found out last week we're pregnant with our first. We've been married for just over 5 years and have been trying for the last 2. Over the last year, we've been working with a fertility specialist and tried different treatments. Then, last week, everything finally came to fruition. We are beyond excited and terrified, but very elated with the news. Bit of backstory. Husband and I are both mid-30s, and I moved country 7 years ago to be with him, so I am currently living away from all my immediate family and childhood friends. Both of my parents passed in my early 20s, and I only have an older brother whom I am very close to. Brother is married with 2 beautiful kids that I love and adore. Brother's wife is another story. We get along, but it's more that I just tolerate her to keep things kosher. She's not the nicest person and is rather self-serving and condescending, but again, it's my brother's wife, so I've always just kept my opinions to myself. Fast forward to yesterday, the day we called my brother to share the good news. It just so happened that my brother was at our cousin's house. We grew up with these cousins and are very close to them. When I rang and they were in the background, I was so excited that they were there to hear the news. After a minute of the "Hi, how are yous?" and "I miss yous," I asked if everyone could hear me, and then said, "I'm pregnant." My nieces started yelling, "OMG, yay!" My cousins started clapping and cheering, and my brother shouted, "Finally! So happy for you guys! That's the best news!" Within 20 seconds of making our long-awaited announcement, my sister-in-law blurts out that her younger sister is also pregnant and due in April. I could hear my brother and one of my cousins ask when our due date is, and I replied, early September. But then my sister-in-law kept talking over me and saying how her sister was due in April. Mind you, this is my family, my brother and our cousins, not her blood relatives. It made me feel like she was trying to take away the excitement and moment of our big announcement. Once the gleeful shouting calmed down a bit, sister-in-law asked if we were having a boy or girl. It's still too early to tell, but we said we're going to wait till the birth to find out the sex. Her response was, "That's annoying. How am I supposed to know what kind of clothes to send you?" I just said she'll have to wait like the rest of us to find out, and responded to the other questions and comments that were being directed to husband and I. I just wanted to vent, because this was a huge deal for me to be able to make this announcement, and I just felt like she tried to rain on my parade. Honestly, I would be annoyed, but congratulations, and it doesn't dim the happiness or excitement of telling everyone there. I'm guessing your brother, cousins, and probably even your nieces saw it for what it was, a pathetic attempt to take the attention off you. How is she supposed to know what clothes to buy an infant that doesn't give a crap and is happy to puke and crap in said clothes all day? Really, sister-in-law? Your birth isn't about her convenience or making sure her precious fifis aren't annoyed. You do you.